D-Lo 404 Boxing. All right, y'all. We a good solid week out from a week beyond Tank Davis KOing Leo Santa Cruz. Yet we still got people out here making posts and arguing back and forth on social media about Tank Davis being a weight bully, and I'm making air quotes, in this fight versus Leo Santa Cruz. You know, and the crazy thing is some of these same people who are saying this picked Leo Santa Cruz to beat Tank. Some even picked Leo to stop Tank. Going into that fight, Tank Davis was coming down from 135, where he had just moved up for one fight. Tank has been pretty much a career 130-pound fighter. That is Tank's division. Tank moved up one weight class to 135 and missed weight, and then had to come back for a second weigh-in to make weight. So he struggled to make weight for Gamboa. He barely stopped Gamboa late in the fight. Yeah, he dropped Gamboa a bunch of times, but we saw how the fight played out. Coming off of that performance, Leo Santa Cruz, to use Gary Russell Jr.'s term, was probably licking his chops at the idea of Tank Davis coming down 5 more pounds, back to 130, where he pretty much had grew out of the weight class, to face him, knowing the kind of fighter that he himself is, knowing that he's going to throw volume punches, knowing that he's going to make Tank work from the start of the first round until the end of the fight. Okay? Leo has a smart team around him. He has a close team. They know him. They know what works for him. They wouldn't have taken that fight had they not felt good about it. And I'll be honest, I picked Tank by stoppage, but I had concerns about the weight. I wasn't sure he'd make the weight. I wasn't sure he'd make the weight safely. But above all that, I was also unsure how he would perform as the fight progressed, with him having to shrink himself down to 130 again. Leo had been at 130 for one fight, won a title, actually won Tank's vacant title, and was planning on staying there to campaign. Just so happened the Tank Davis opportunity came up. We all know Tank's a big puncher. We know what Tank brings to the table. Leo wasn't concerned other than the fact that Tank had power. Leo felt like he could outbox Tank. Okay? But as far as all of this weight bully crap, Tank was the man at a disadvantage weight-wise going into that fight, having had to boil himself down to 130. We saw Tank training in a damn sauna suit, or whatever you want to call it, almost the whole camp. Under any other circumstances, anybody looking at that would say that's not a good sign. The only reason people didn't talk about it more was because we knew the guy was going down a whole weight class. But had he been already a 130 fighter and having to do all of that, man, that would have been all people talked about. But my point is, the term weight bully, which is some BS that some fool on YouTube, that was the first person I started hearing say it, and he was talking about Errol Spence Jr., is utter nonsense. When you get outside of the heavyweight division, if you want to be technical, 90% of the fighters are probably weight bullies, based on that premise. But that said, a fighter who is a bigger fighter having to shrink himself down to a weight at which another fighter can make comfortably is the guy at the disadvantage going into that fight. I understand that size does matter. I understand there's other intangibles that play a part in it. But nobody's going to convince me that these guys aren't putting themselves at a detriment by shrinking themselves down to a weight in which they're struggling to make healthily. Now that said, I'm not saying who is in that predicament or not, because I'm not in their camp, I'm not in their corner, I don't know. I'm not in their body. But I'm just telling you that these guys that are having to come down from 180 to make 147, or coming from 170 to make 135 or whatever, man, those guys are at a disadvantage going into those fights. I don't care how big they are on fight night. You look at Jared Hurd and what he was doing, to make 154. that had a lot to do with his style of fighting, in my opinion. Herb could not, coming off of that much of a weight drop, could not go into those fights and just let his hands fly, you know. And eventually I think it played a part in how he started to lose punch resistance. You know, that along with the fact that he was easily hit because he was walking through shots and blocking shots with his face. But my point is, guys, don't get sucked into that nonsense with this weight bully term, and give these guys credit when they go out there and put on a stellar performance for you, the fight fans, and go out there and get these wins, or even the ones that go out there and lose, but they gave it their all. Let's give these guys credit. Let's take our hats off to them, and let's stop being overly critical of these fighters who are actually getting in the ring and making the fights. Let's criticize them when they're skirting around, not wanting to make fights and starting to, you know, performing or maneuvering around like a diva. That's when we need to get on. But that's all I got to say on the subject. D-Lo 404 Boxing, I'm out.